Okay, so here we are for the third installment of 9.2 diseases. So, in this, we're going to talk about the new types of diseases that emerge for human societies in the 20th century and also the ones that remain. So, the first thing that we're going to talk about is, well, we're going to talk about it a little bit in kind of combination with each other, and let's write in purple. So let's look. This is 2008, so very recent within all of our lifetimes. And let's look at cause of death between low-income countries and high-income countries. And it'll give us this idea of this diseases resulting from poverty versus diseases of longevity and lifestyle. So the kind of number one cause of death in a low-income country is a respiratory infection, bronchitis, pneumonia, etc. The next highest cause of death is a diarrheal disease. So, um, your water for the world, all of that is arguing about the importance of clean water. This is what we're talking about when we're talking about the importance of clean water. That if you don't have access to clean water, you 8.2% of people die because they don't have access to clean water. Next up, HIV/AIDS. Right? If you don't have access to proper healthcare, you don't have access to proper education about sexually transmitted diseases, this is a problem. Heart disease and malaria. So, heart disease, right? Poor diet, poor exercise habits, poor health in general, and then malaria because you don't have access to proper sanitation, because you don't have clean water, clean running water. So, there's a fertile breeding ground for mosquitoes. Versus high income countries. Heart disease, diet, exercise, stroke, also partially caused diet, exercise, trachea and lung cancers, smoking, Alzheimer's disease and dementia, which is longevity, and then respiratory infections. So a lot of this is going to be secondary to other things, other cancers, old age, when you get really susceptible to pneumonia. So that's right, again, a disease associated with longevity. So these are diseases of poverty. Tuberculosis is still a major killer. We really only see it take place in low income countries. It is not a major killer in high income countries. So, as an example, right on there, malaria, fifth top cause of death. Here we go. This is Lynn Schumacher. She is a historian, and she was writing about the history of anti-malarial efforts during the 20th century, and she wrote about this in 2003. She says, does one focus energy and resources only on attacking the disease, or attempt a broader strategy that includes addressing issues of political and economic inequality or underdevelopment that contribute to the disease, right? So when we're talking about diseases of poverty, right, this is what we're talking about. Why are these diseases more prevalent in low-income countries? Let's look. In regard to malaria, this debate had already emerged in the 1920s, as seen in the conflict between the Malaria Commission and of the League of Nations, which supported a broad approach focusing on social and economic development, and the United States malariologists, who focused almost exclusively to control malaria-spreading mosquitoes. In the second half of the 20th century, the failure of the United Nations World Health Organization's malaria eradication program showed that the narrow approach, even with the help of powerful new insecticides, could not break the cycle of disease and poverty, particularly given the radical population changes and movements in the post-colonial developing world, wars and refugee movements, environmental degradation, resettlement and labor migration due to economic development itself often reverse any progress made in local or either national mosquito control programs. The most important obstacle to malaria control, however, remains the uneven distribution of resources across the globe. Despite its listing of malaria as a top priority, the WHO can do little to fight the disease given the developed nations' failure to provide the United Nations with adequate funding. So when we look, right, so why are low income countries more susceptible to these types of diseases? Here we go, right? So we have one, wars and refugees. Two, environmental degradation. Three, resettlement and labor. For crying out loud. Labor migration. Right, so this is really what we're looking for in terms of why these are low income country problems, and high income countries have different problems, right? They have problems of longevity and lifestyle.